From the Mumbai studios of Republic TV, it's time for Arnab Goswami on The Debate.
Ladies and gentlemen, ahead of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose's 125th birth anniversary, the Prime Minister has announced that his statue will be installed at India Gate. It is a great step forwards to commemorate our heroes and reclaim our legacy. But tonight we must also ask the larger question. Is it time to rewrite our history? But first, here are the developments and then we debate.
On Friday, the Prime Minister announced, at a time when the entire nation is marking the 125th birth anniversary of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, I am glad to share that his grand statue, made of granite, will be installed at India Gate.
Coming up of the statue of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose at the same place on Rajpath where once stood symbol of colonialism and imperialism in the form of King George V, underscores the narrative building agenda of the Modi government. Taken together along with projects like the Statue of Unity dedicated to Sardar Patel, this in many ways is also mainstreaming and retrieval of legacy of some forgotten heroes of the freedom struggle who had gotten overshadowed by the Nehru-Gandhi clan.
The kin of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose says this was long time due.
The proposal to have the liberator of India, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose's statue at the India Gate, has been there for many, many years. They appreciate that the NDA government under the leadership of Narendra Modi ji has taken the initiative, political parties and leadership encouraging divisive politics, communal politics across the nation, which is breaking up the nation into pieces. If you really want to honor Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, you have to imbibe, implement his inclusive ideology.
Netaji's unmatched legacy and indelible contribution of India's independence movement is an inspiration to the entire nation.
And I believe that this is an opportunity which we cannot afford to lose, which India will not lose.
We survive or not, whether we individually live to see India free or not, we are confident that India shall be free. We are confident that Anglo-American imperialism will be wiped out of India.
The Modi government has been committed to revive the history of the Indian government. From declassifying 33 files on Netaji, to marking 75 years of Azad Hind Fauj.
आज से 75 वर्ष पूर्व नेताजी ने शपथ लेते हुए वादा किया था एक ऐसा भारत बनाने का जहां सभी के पास समान अधिकार हो.
To renaming islands in Andaman,
अब से रॉस द्वीप को नेताजी सुभाष चंद्र बोस द्वीप से जाना जाएगा.
to making INA veterans part of the INA parade.
The pride of the nation, veterans of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose's Indian National Army.
To marking Parakram Divas.
125 वर्ष पहले आज के ही दिन मां भारती की गोद में उस वीर सपूत ने जन्म लिया था जिसने आजाद भारत के सपने को नई दिशा दी थी.
From Netaji to Vallabhbhai Patel, it is time to rewrite history to make way for India's heroes. It is time to remove our history from the shackles of British colonialism. It is time the narrative of history is crafted, molded and omitted to suit the agenda of a certain political class and ideology comes to an end.
And on this, first I have Sanjeev Sanyal, who besides being the principal economic advisor to the government of India, is an internationally acclaimed economist, historian, best-selling author, and he's the pet hate for the Lutyens lobby, which doesn't like his perspective on history, because Sanjeev is among those who call for a rewriting of history. Sanjeev, firstly, explain your tweet this morning when you said, "What a fitting tribute to Netaji, first Prime Minister of independent India." That is what you tweeted this morning, retweeting what the Prime Minister had said about the grand statue of Netaji Bose, and before that a hologram statue of his being present at the same place. Your tweet said, "What a fitting tribute to Netaji, the first Prime Minister of independent India." Can you elaborate?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Excellent. So let me first say I'm absolutely thrilled that Netaji's statue will be put up under the canopy because it's a really fitting tribute to a man who I at least and many millions of Indians consider to be one of the key architects of modern India. Now, why did I say that he was the first Prime Minister of free India? Well, as it turns out, he was the Prime Minister of the Azad Hind government that had been set up in Singapore. And of course, it was not just a government that didn't have territory or an army and so on. It was a government that was in control of part of India, part of Manipur, in fact, and of the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. He had an army, the INA. He issued his own currency. And very importantly, he was recognized as the official government by a large number of countries of the Axis Alliance and Ireland as well, as it happens to be. So, he was the leader of a legitimate government in control of a part of India. So I think it's fair to say that he was, in that sense, the first Prime Minister of free India.
So, viewers, Sanjeev, who I have known for years. We were in university together, in 2 universities. Ladies and gentlemen, he is attacked constantly. In fact, he's a year senior, I may reveal today. So he's attacked constantly by people who don't like the way he does history. They say that he's not a trained historian. Yes, he studied economics in college. But the fact is, you are accused, Sanjeev, of using popular history, non-academic sources, articles that have come out in the media, and those who don't like your version of history go into technicalities. But I think the real reason why they don't accept it is because broadly people like you are calling for a rewriting of history, and therefore a lot of hit jobs have been done on you. Tell me, when you spoke at the 14th Netaji Subhash Memorial Lecture at FICCI recently, you spoke about the need to revisit our own history. You are constantly being attacked for saying so.
Yes.
What do you mean by revisiting our own history?
So let me first defend myself, since you raised the issue that I'm constantly attacked. Well, I have never claimed to be a trained historian. I am a trained economist, and there's no doubt about that. But the fact of the matter is, nobody is taking on any of the ideas and facts I'm putting forward. Whether it's this particular issue in this case about the fact that Netaji was indeed the Prime Minister of the Azad Hind government, which was indeed recognized by many countries and was indeed in control of a part of India. That is not disputed. Similarly, I have raised issues about many other aspects of history, and in every single case, nobody disputes the facts that I'm putting on the table. They'll keep saying, oh, he's not trained as a historian. Now, the point is, I have never claimed to be. And in any case, basically what they are saying is that I have not been forced to go through the brainwashing of the usual academic system. But the fact is, most of the people that they keep, these historians keep quoting, are also not trained historians. By the way, Cunningham was a military general. Prinsep was an official of the East India Company. None of these people had PhDs in history either. So I don't know why they should criticize me for not having a history degree when all the people they quote also don't have any history degree.
Now to the second point. I agree with you that the best place to start rewriting our history, and I don't think we need to be apologetic about it. I think we have a compelling reason to rewrite our history, and I think the best place to start is with our freedom struggle.
Yes.
I don't know why we need to be so coy about it.
We don't at all need to be coy about it. I'm astounded that some of the history that we read in our textbooks, for example, the revolutionary movement has basically been wiped out of our history books. I mean, you'll hear occasionally on the side, there was some chap called Chandrasekhar Azad or Raj Bihari Bose, but you're never given a sense of what their importance was in our history. So you get the impression that there were these brave people who did some, unconnected acts of individual bravery. But the fact that there was a concerted revolutionary movement lasting over decades with clear leadership and so on, that is never brought up. And I'll give you other examples. Even in the history of the Congress, for example, there is a peculiar way in which the history is written suggests that there was only one narrative in it. So, for example, you hear about the internal fights between the moderates and the extremists. Now, if you hear the words moderates and the extremists, you immediately know who wrote the history, because you get the sense that the moderates were reasonable people and the extremists were asking for something quite irrational. But in fact, what were the extremists asking for? The Lal Bal Pal were basically asking for Purna Swaraj, or full freedom, whereas the so-called moderates were effectively asking for minor changes and pleading with the British for it. So the fact of the matter is, the better way to characterize this is the way Sri Aurobindo would have used to characterize them, that one group, they are actually the nationalists, and the others are the loyalists. And you can, by the way, rewrite a lot of the rest of Indian history in the same kind of tone, simply changing nomenclature slightly, and the whole narrative becomes different.
Well said, Sanjeev. We must have by the way, I must invite you, because we have a new program on Saturdays nowadays, which is Arnab Live, where we go deep into a theme, and we are looking at the rewriting of history this weekend. Love to call you for that. But today, your and our hearts are filled with pride. Truly, our hearts are filled with pride. Sanjeev, thanks very much. I'm opening up the debate.
You would have said, Jai Hind.
Jai Hind, Jai Hind, absolutely. Thank you, Sanjeev. Let's open the debate. One person who's joining the debate, General Bakshi, has been fighting for this for so long. He's beaming tonight. I think it's a great decision. It's a phenomenal decision. And there is a larger discussion which needs to start. If Netaji's got his due, so many others also deserve to, don't they? General Bakshi.
Arnab, today is a very significant day in historical terms. As Sanyal very rightly pointed out, today is the battle of narratives, historical narratives, coming to a head-on, face-off, which we should have had decades back. We have a colonial narrative that has been imposed upon us. It was in the interests of the first set of people who governed India to continue with that historical narrative and to peddle that, with great strength. The British wanted that historical narrative, that the best way to fight them was the Gandhian way. Therefore, they peddled this historical narrative, pushed it in the Indian media, international media across the entire British colonies. This is the way to fight with us. Peaceful non-cooperation, non-violence, not 1857, the horrors of 1857. So did India enter a Westphalian system of nation state premised upon the monopoly of violence? Or did we enter this through non-violence? It's a seminal question. And we are not asking for an emotional kind of an argument. We are saying, please go for the historical fact. I am a bit luckier that my discipline in PhD was military history. So I have one foot in the historical side of the divide. You know, the hagiography put about as the freedom struggle's history by Bipin Chandra had about 640 odd pages, Arnab, out of which, you know how many pages were devoted to Netaji and the INA? Hold your breath. 1.5. 1.5.
Totally
this
deliberate.
Is the narrative that we are questioning.
Yeah.
And you know, this was written, you know, Arnab, before the transfer of power archives were declassified in London in 1977. How can you write an objective history of the freedom struggle without taking into account the classified documents of that period? So Arnab, we had Dr. Kalyan Dey, who was sent to London. 6 months he spent researching the archives. We gave him a list of the top decision makers of the British Empire who had to work on the question of independence for India. Starts with Clement Attlee, Prime Minister. Starts with Pethick Lawrence, Secretary of State for India. Field Marshal Wavell, Viceroy. Field Marshal Achille, Commander-in-Chief, India. Governors of all the states. And the Director of the Intelligence Bureau of the British India, the last of them. You know, Arnab, he got back photocopied documents. Arnab, I had goosebumps. Arnab, I can cite to you chapter and verse. And if there is any gentleman in the historical field with a degree of intellectual honesty, the case is as plain as ever. Clement Attlee, when he visited Kolkata in 1956 and had a 2-day session with Justice P.B. Chakrabarti, he asked him direct questions. Let me just quote those. Before I show you the evidence, right? Let me just quote those. He asked him, the Quit India movement of 42 launched by Gandhi had failed dismally. Why then, after you had won the Second World War in 45, did you leave so precipitately in 1.5 years?
General Bakshi.
3 words that Clement Attlee answered. Subhash Chandra Bose, INA.
Yes, absolutely. And no doubt, no doubt. You know, General Bakshi, one quick point. I'll first get the political part of it also out of the way. Firstly, Riju, isn't it fantastic that the Modi government has done something which no government in independent India has done, including many in which your party was very much a part? Shouldn't we truly applaud this decision of the Modi government to place the statue of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose right where the statue of King George V used to be? I think it's phenomenal. And personally, I would say that you should not look for a political angle to this. You should probably compliment the Modi government for taking this historic decision.
Okay. Now, because I represent a political party, so I will talk from it obviously from a political angle. Now, as any patriotic Indian, we welcome this move of the union government to install the statue of Netaji Subhash Bose. But, you know where the politics comes in? It looks like a mere eyewash when you cancel West Bengal's Netaji's tableau. Not only Netaji, but other illustrious sons and daughters of India like Swami Vivekananda and Matangani Hajra for the Republic Day parade. It reeks of political vendetta against Bengal and its sentiments. You know where the politics comes in, sir? When you change the name of Calcutta Port, which was Netaji Subhash Port, to Shyama Mukherjee Port. You know where the politics comes in, sir? Where after several intimations and letters by our leader Mamata Banerjee to the union government to declassify files which are under the purview of MHA and declare Netaji's birthday as national holiday, it has fallen on deaf ears. You know, these are the reasons why politics comes in. Apart from that, if you really want to pay your indebtedness to Netaji Subhash Bose, why don't you accept his teachings of inclusivity? Why don't you preach his teachings of equality, fraternity and justice rather than politics of violence and hatred? So this is where politics comes in. Otherwise, if you pay respect to one of the greatest sons of this soil who fought for this nation and who was one of the architects of modern India, we have nothing political about.
Our question is, you are always, you know, the Trinamool Congress is very vocal on its demands and often gets its way. May I ask you that you have been part of a few governments at the center at a very influential position. Can you tell me why in the past your party failed to effectively rally support, come up with an idea, or use your tremendous political significance to place the statue of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose where the Modi government has decided to place it?
We have always raised the issue to the central government. Trinamool Congress has never been.
But you have been in the central government.
There have been other political parties, and it has always fallen on. It has always been fallen on deaf ears. You know, the Netaji Subhash Bose's house in Calcutta. Trinamool Sarkar, after they came into power, Mamata Banerjee has made sure that it is renovated and brought up to book. We have done our part, but the decisions which are under the purview of union government, it is the union governments who have always discredited us, who have always not heard us. What can we do? We are proud of Netaji, we are proud of Ravi Thakur, we are proud of...
On the contrary, can I come in, please? I want to come in. I think it's time that TMC and its representatives stop wailing, complaining, and just keep on trying to score political brownie points when there are none to be scored whatsoever. It was in the year 2015 that Modi government declassified those 33 files. It was 1 year later that Ross Island was named Netaji Island. And not just that, even this time you are playing politics over the tableau, knowing very well, and now you're saying that it falls on deaf ears when the fact of the matter is that West Bengal was chosen in 16, 17, 18 and 21. But you want to create an issue again and again, knowing very well that the central government does not come in the way. There is an expert committee that looks at the selection of the tableau, and there were 56 proposals, out of which 21 were chosen this time. But because you felt so left out and threatened, and you're perpetually insecure that you're raising this. And there is no need all the time to be so confrontationist, my dear friend. Applaud the Modi government, be one with it. Because if you care for Netaji, then you're with us. And then we're together. And I want to add it was a pleasure to listen to Sanjeev Sanyal ji. It was a pleasure to listen to Major General Lieutenant Bakshi. ICSC, no, sir, you are lying through your teeth, because West Bengal tableau and Tamil Nadu tableau in respective years, and I can give you those years, have been chosen. Out of 56 proposals, 21 have been chosen. So if you want to replicate and just feel threatened because center is declaring this year to be Parikram Divas and celebrating 125th year of Netaji, you don't have to feel threatened. You can be a part of it. You don't have to play dirty, filthy politics and mouth these, spew this venom constantly.
When you wanted to pay
there is no need for it. No, don't do it. There is no need for it. There is no need. Applaud Modi government. Say we are with you.
Was that Netaji's respect?
No. Please say thank you. Say thank you. Say thank you, Modi ji. Say Shazia, I'm with you. Please say Sanjeev, Major General,
was that not
Arnab,
disrespect to
Shazia,
Netaji?
we are together in this.
When you are doing
don't
this,
do this.
whatever
Please don't do
amounts of
this.
you're doing,
constantly,
and you are
this is your
including
character.
Netaji's name
You're
for your
constantly
political
doing this.
brownie
There is no
points,
need.
was it not
You're lying, sir. No, you're lying.
Bengal
Come on,
tableau?
if
What are you
any
saying?
government has gone out of its way,
You are doing
1,000
politics
digital
for
prints in
brownie points.
2016
No
were released by Modi
As long as
government.
you're paying respect
This
to our national
classification was
icons,
done in
fine,
2015.
no problem.
Was
But
done by the
don't say
Modi
you're not doing
government.
politics. Do
We
not
are
say
the
that.
ones who
Don't
are
lie.
putting the statue and replacing.
Don't lie. Please don't lie.
Come on, nobody's doing. That's how you see, because we are not like you. You're doing.
You don't
politics
even
and you
know
just
the national
lie.
icons. Your
Get it.
party doesn't even
Be
know.
one with
The
it.
Home Minister of India
Embrace-
garlanded the wrong
embrace-
statue of Birsa Munda.
embrace it
You are
for
talking
once.
about national icons.
Embrace it.
Please.
Embrace it for once. Embrace it. That's what you keep looking at. That's what you keep doing. Picking, just
As long
picking
as
up
you
all
keep
the time these points.
as long as you
Bickering
keep
all the
your
time.
negative politics
Stop
of
bickering.
invoking
Stop
national
bickering. Let
icons
this petty-
and gods and goddesses, we are okay with it.
Stop being so
Don't
petty
play
all the
politics
time.
with our national
Let's rise
icons. We
above
are okay
this.
with it.
Let's rise above this, my friend. Let's rise above this. That's what I'm asking
I'd
you
like
to do.
I'd like to get in Subhash Kak. He's an author and a scientist and a member of the Prime Minister's Science, Technology and Innovation Advisory Council. Is joining me from Oklahoma in the US today. I'm also joined by Chandra Kumar Bose. And I find this discussion very fascinating. Chandrachud Ghosh is with us tonight. He is the author of Bose, The Untold Story of an Inconvenient Nationalist. Must read. I must tell you, Chandrachud, for everyone, our hearts are swelling with pride. I can't tell you, Chandrachud. And today we know that Netaji's legend becomes immortalized with this step. I want to take, first let me get you, Chandrachud, in on this. I actually, I like this competitive politics between the BJP and the Trinamool on Netaji. I like it. Because at least we know that Netaji cannot be overlooked or overwritten. So I personally am fascinated with it. I want the Trinamool and the BJP to fiercely compete with each other on acknowledging Netaji. Because that is the only way to undo the Congress's deliberate erasing of Netaji's role. Chandrachud, your take.
Absolutely, I agree with you, Arnab, completely. And that is the reason of this fierce opposition that we see today, because Narendra Modi is resurrecting a narrative which was suppressed for 75 years. And on your channel tonight, I want to make one revelation. In this battle of narratives, there is an effort, an attempt to control the narrative so much that now there are efforts to stop my book from coming out. And this effort is being made by a very prominent member of the Bose family, a former parliamentarian, a professor in a foreign university. And because he knows that my narrative will not match his, he's going all out, pulling strings to stop the publication of the book. That is where this contest, this fight has reached.
What is it in the book that he wants to stop?
We don't know, but definitely he is afraid of something. He is expecting something. He knows we don't agree with his theory of Netaji's death in the plane crash. We talk about Gumnami Baba. He thinks that we are a fringe right group. And whatever the differences are, he is known as a liberal representative of a political party. So why is he so afraid that he doesn't even want the other side?
Okay, what we'll do is we'll try and get a debate between you and Professor Sogato Bose. I'm sure you're referring to him, but I don't want to go into that controversy in detail. I would rather go across next to Subhash Kak and Chandra Kumar Bose, who are on the debate. I'm coming to you, Kamru. Dr. Subhash Kak, is this also about an overall rewriting of history? I am a little uncomfortable, Mr. Kak, with the episodic way in which we are looking at the rewriting of history. I think it needs to be done in a more comprehensive way. And I think it is tragic that the Modi government since 2014 has not really initiated that step. Somewhere I believe it's been defensive in this. If it could take a move as bold as the one today, as necessary as the one today, should we look at the other aspects as well? For example, was Shama Prasad Mukherjee overlooked because he quit over the Nehru-Liaquat Pact? Shouldn't Shastri get his dues for first raising the complete integration of Jammu and Kashmir? Why aren't the Chapekar brothers mentioned in the freedom struggle at all? Why was Tilak criticized? Why is it that even today there are syllabuses which define our old freedom fighters as extremists? Why is Bal Gangadhar Tilak called an extremist in school books taught to Indians? These are questions that I feel need a comprehensive response, not an episodic response. Your take?
I totally agree with that. First of all, the statue should not be a political question. But I think the big idea that one has got to deal with is a complete rewrite of history from an Indian perspective and not from a colonial Western perspective, which is what we have perpetuated in the last 75 years. In fact, a wit has said that more than what the British were able to achieve in their 150 years of rule in converting Indians into Mecolites, after independence, that process has only accelerated. Let me just give one specific example. Raja Bhoj of the Parmar dynasty, who ruled most of central India from 1055 CE, has been universally acclaimed as probably the greatest scholar king anywhere in the world. And he was also a conqueror. He was the king who stopped Mahmud of Ghazni from going beyond the northwestern part of India and attacking central India. But he doesn't find any mention in Indian books. And he's not a person who's mythical. He wrote 84 books on subjects such as grammar to architecture to music to city planning, all kinds of fields. But why haven't we done that? Because I think after independence, we have taken the easy way out, just used the template which was used by the British for their reasons, and perhaps there were issues related to how much of space they could assign to different rulers in different parts of the country. I think we need to step back, perhaps assign different same kind of coverage to not only the political leadership in different parts of India, maybe divided into four, and also give enough coverage to the Ahoms, to the great kings, the Senas and the Palas of Bengal, Bihar, South India, the great Rajendra Chola, for example, and Central India, and not focus only on one region. I think this is not a good thing. And if this thematic approach is adopted, and perhaps also the other thing that the British did to spread the myth that India didn't have any science, which is totally wrong, as a person as far removed as Said al-Andalusi in Spain, writing in 1065 CE, when he spoke about science in different nations of the world, he said emphatically that India is the world's first nation of science. So we need to bring this all in. We do. What in my view is very tragic, that as is accepted by sociologists now, the British created the idea of caste as we know it now, because in their census of 1901 and the prior one in 1801, they spread out across the country. And I asked most jatis, what Varna are you? They said, we don't know. We don't know what we are. We are this community. But they foisted different Varna on different jatis, and we sadly have internalized it.
I think so.
And I think we have done a lot of damage.
No, but we've taken that at face value. And coming to the present, I think, Dr. Sandeep Shastri, I'd like to come to you next. And I'm coming to you, Chandra Kumar Bose. I know I'm making you wait. I'm just giving everyone enough time to make their, their presentations tonight on this important subject. You see, Dr. Shastri, I'll take off where Subhash Kak very explicitly went into the details of it. Now, I'll tell you, you refer to the Ahoms. Mr. Kak, I am from Guwahati. And I can tell you, you mentioned the Ahoms. So that when I was in school, and my father was an army officer, so we grew up in different schools. Every school that I went to, including the Kendra Vidyalaya in Jabalpur, where I passed out from, but I did history before that, history was 70% Mughals. 70% of the history we were taught in school under different curriculum was basically Mughal history. It's as if the Mughals were the beginning point, the high point of Indian civilization, and the ebbing of the Mughals is the ebbing of Indian civilization. You refer to the Ahoms. I did not find a single reference, Dr. Sandeep Shastri, to Lachit Borphukan, who in 1671 stopped the Mughal advance into Assam. It was almost as if Lachit Borphukan stopping the Mughal advance into Assam was something wrong that he did. So he was wiped out of Indian history. So I feel, Dr. Shastri, that the Modi government, with the mandate it has, should completely do a rewriting of history now, take erudite people and nationalists to do the job. Your take.
Arnab, thank you for having me on this debate. I would join everyone in complimenting the decision today to honor Netaji in the way it is being done. I think beyond a shadow of doubt, Arnab, the celebration of the multiple narratives which is Indian history is something that is very, very much needed. I think for too long we have spoken about my history and your history, but have not spoken about our history as a nation. And I think it's time that that happens. I don't know if you would call it rewriting. I don't know if you would call it multiple narration celebration, but basically throwing the floodlight of attention on areas, on people, on developments, on experiences, on narratives which have not been focused on. Secondly, in Arnab, I would add the decision to install this statue, I think, is a very important decision. It is an important symbol of what represents India. But as others have said, I'm sure this symbol will not be limited to symbolism, but we will actually take Netaji's narrative, Netaji's principles, Netaji's philosophy, Netaji's approach into the way in which we run our society and politics. For me, today is such an interesting and important day because when I say our history, I'm talking of a so-called left leader who founded the forward bloc, whose importance, whose narrative is today being highlighted by a BJP government, which a lot of people would project as having nothing to do with the left way of thinking. So for me, this coming together of narratives, which is seen in what we are doing today. My final point on this, Arnab, would be this. As we look at celebrating multiple narratives of history, it's also important that we do not lionize, monopolize, or appropriate history as being belonging to X, Y, Z factions. But I go back to the point I made. I want not my history or your history, but our history to be what is celebrated in this diverse nation.
No, I'm totally with you. I'm deliberately expanding the nature of the debate. My question is, we can look at this as one episode. First of all, Chandra Kumar Bose, you must be delighted. I want your response on it. And then I'll take it forward. Actually, let me hear a response on this. I feel that anyone who is a non-Nehruvian is not considered to be a hero in the way we've written our history. And I think we need to correct that. But your take. Mr. Bose, your take, please. Can you hear me? Mr. Bose?
Yes, we got disconnected.
Yeah.
Sorry. Jai Hind to everybody. We welcome this move taken by the NDA government under the leadership of Narendra Modi ji to install the Liberator of India's statue at the India Gate. I must also congratulate Major General Gagandeep Bakshi and many other army veterans who have fought for this cause, and congratulations goes to 135 crore population of India, who I think feels honored by this move by the central government. I think this would pave the way for Netaji's ideology being implemented across the country. Netaji's inclusive ideology. He was the only leader who could unite all communities as Bharatiyas. I think this ideology is extremely important in present day India. The relevance of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, I think, needs to be understood. I think Modi government has taken a positive step in that direction. And I think the next move that Narendra Modi ji would take is to implement Netaji's inclusive ideology. You see, the message that Narendra Modi ji had given, Sabke Saath, Sabke Vikas, Sabke Saath, Sabke Viswas, and Sabke Saath, Sabke Prayas, is based on Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose's ideology. But we have to implement it. The message is clear, but the implementation is yet to be done. And that is the responsibility of all Bharatiyas, all Indians. It is not only the responsibility of the government at the center or the states. It is the responsibility of all citizens of our country to
I hear you.
follow Netaji's ideology. I would like to add, we were talking about corrections in history. You see, it is not a question of rewriting history. It is a question of correcting the distortions in history, which I feel may have been deliberate. So I think time has come that proper
So is it not necessary, Mr. Bose? And pardon my saying this, that your half-hearted response, I repeat, your half-hearted response to the wonderful decision of the government, does it emanate from your own political frustrations within the BJP? And maybe it would be appropriate for you to de-link your political issues with the BJP from the decision of the government. And I think that's also something that's fitting, because if you are not able to de-link your political issues with the BJP from the larger issue of Netaji, you carry the Bose name, then it is, how can you tell others to not make Netaji political when you yourself appear to be giving a political slant to your granduncle? It's not necessary.
Not at all.
I'm just putting
Not
it,
at all.
yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah, okay.
Because, you've started saying this
clarify.
out of certain recent political experiences, but I'm compelled to tell you this, that it's not necessary. You didn't say this a few months back. If you can't, I'm saying if Chandra Bose, if you can't not make Netaji political, if you as a member of the family can't make Netaji political, then how can you lecture the rest of the country?
Let me clarify. Netaji was a political leader, a statesman, a liberator of India, but he was much above politics. If you have to respect Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, You have to rise above petty politics. The political fight that we have seen over the last few days is not desired. It is very unfortunate that why couldn't the central government take the states into confidence to put up a Netaji tableau? You don't need a political slugfest. It is very improper the way things were being conducted. Now I would like to add, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, his ideology is the only path to save this nation from disintegration.
Into the debate,
I feel Narendra Modi is an inclusive leader, but the party as a whole does not follow the principles of Subhash Chandra Bose.
Mr. Chandra Bose, I would again interrupt most politely by telling you that I marvel at your very recent initiation to the group of people who say that the BJP does not follow.
My entire politics is based on Netaji's ideology.
Yeah, but you started being articulate on this point of view after certain elections in Bengal.
My political career is based on Netaji's ideology. BJP
I would tell you further that I would contradict you and say this, that while your ideology and your beliefs and your vision should be inspired by Netaji's thinking and his vision, I would request you and request all politicians not to base their political career on Netaji. Let's not reduce Netaji to a political career, please. I am getting a response. I'm getting a response from Chandrachud Ghosh. Very briefly, I'm getting a response from Chandrachud. I'm going to come back to you.
Yeah, can I come in?
I'm coming to you, Mr. Kamru. 1 minute. Chandrachud wants to say something to you.
Arnab, Netaji was a politician, and if he is not used to improve politics in our country, then what is he there for? He was not in any ashram. He was not a saint. He was there in politics. And the politics of ownership over Netaji, politics of appropriation, that is what keeps him in the centerpiece of debate. And that is what our country needs.
Take you. I'm being unfair to Kamru and Pankaj Sharma. After having provoked them throughout the debate by talking to them about how the Congress party has, done a hash job of trying to write our history in the wrong way. So I don't need to ask you a question. Yes, Kamru.
Yeah, the first and foremost, today after listening to your debate and events of the day concerning Netaji, I can only say one thing. Irony died 1,000 deaths today. Simple reason, I am giving you the logic of that. The introductory video that we have shown today in your program and the voiceover the lady has pronounced Azad Hindu Fauj. That is Azad Hind Fauj. Please correct yourself if I am wrong. I beg to apologize once again if I am wrong. Second point.
No, I think you are wrong. I think you are wrong. I think you are wrong. And by trying to say I think you are wrong. I must correct you. I must correct you immediately. And anyone who has followed my journalism knows very well that, and General Bakshi will vouch for that our respect, our coverage, our detail on Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose and the Azad Hind Fauj is neither today's nor shallow. So please, I think you heard it wrong. Yeah, go on.
It's inscribed out there. I heard it wrong. I apologize.
It's okay.
But please check it. Because the first time it's a mistake, second time it will be intentional. So I corrected it. Second most, when you go to the Kohima War Memorial, you see it is inscribed out there in big words. When you go back and tell them we gave our today for your tomorrow. That was Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, Indian National Army, who laid down thousands of lives at the Kohima-Imphal border in Kohima. Point number one. Point number two, when you come and say that we are going to rewrite the history, it sets a narrative that PM Narendra Modi ji has said a few years ago, when he said that India is under a gulami for the last 1200 years. So now you are trying to appropriate history, try to correct history or try to change history with events in the past in which we had no control. But those events concerning Netaji, wherein the freedom struggle was fought on the Indian soil, Netaji has in fact neglected the school of thought that RSS and BJP belongs to. In fact, he even said, I do not like RSS because of their sectarian thought processes. I denounce the RSS thought processes, so he never aligned with the RSS. Now come the RSS school of thoughts of the 2021-22 that we are seeing right now. What are they doing? They are trying to appropriate Sardar Patel. They are trying to appropriate Netaji. They are trying to appropriate Rabindranath Tagore. And okay, these are our nationalism. The simple logic that I can find out, Arnab, out here, a lethal mix of pseudo-nationalism along with Hindutva narrative is being set in the country
I don't think
our historical mistakes and set up a new narrative.
No, it's not a new narrative.
That is the
I'll get Pankaj in and then I'll tell you. First of all, you got the epitaph at the Kohima War Memorial completely wrong. I would like to correct you. It says, when you go home, tell them of us and say, for your tomorrow, we gave our today. And now, having said that, I want to bring in Pankaj into the debate. My debate is not shallow. I am saying you've given a blink and miss reference to Bhagat Singh in our history. Rajguru, Sukhdev, hardly one line. Our entire history has been Nehru, Gandhi, Congress and Mughals. I am not saying that Nehru, Gandhi, Congress don't deserve space. But to devote 60% to the Mughals and erase everyone else and call Tilak an extremist is not acceptable. So I'm trying to place this discussion in a broader context. Pankaj, I think the BJP government should initiate the rewriting of history. I'm sure you'll agree with me. Complete rewriting.
Yeah, let them rewrite the history. But who will rewrite the history?
Historians. Historians.
Bhai Shah.
Historians will rewrite it.
Who will rewrite the history?
Historians.
See, how can there be two opinions that Subhash Chandra Bose needs a divine pedestal at India Gate, but the compulsion of unveiling a hologram totally uncovers the hollowness behind the projected devotional, emotional face of Narendra Bhai Modi in this episode? Didn't he know that the country will celebrate 125th birth anniversary of Subhash Babu in 2022? Then what was he doing for all these years? You know, he was so sentimentally attached, so intensely devoted to the idea of giving this honor to Subhash Babu. Why didn't he, decide to go for the statue in 2019? A statue would have been ready by this time, but he didn't do it. And now he is announcing that we'll install a statue. So I would welcome PM's announcement, but I'm sorry. I would also, denounce him for the unfortunate political intent behind this decision. It's quite clear that it is an afterthought. It is an afterthought because of certain reasons.
You ruled the country for over 65 years. Why didn't you have the afterthought?
See, nothing could be a more ungrateful act than using a great warrior like Subhash Babu
nothing can be a more disgraceful act than calling Lal Bal Pal, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Lala Lajpat Rai and Bipin Chandra Pal. In your government's time, you call them terrorist and extremist leaders. Nothing can be more unfortunate than that. I'll let GD Bakshi respond to you.
Who called them terrorists?
Extremists. Extremists.
Who called them?
The Congress Party. The Congress Party.
Who called them extremists?
The Congress Party.
Everybody knows that there were
Congress Party.
Two lines of thinking those days.
Anyway, Jal Bakshi.
Appropriating Bhagat Singh right now.
Who's appropriating? Who's appropriating?
Front member. Everybody is appropriating. Arnab, you are appropriating. You are trying to rewrite the history tonight in this debate.
Yes, I want. I'm at least open about it. I want history to be rewritten. I want it. I will work hard, as hard as possible, and dedicate this network to the correction of Indian history.
Netaji and Jawaharlal Nehru were the two leaders of the Congress Party who were having leftist ideology. Now what
I'm
we
sorry,
have-
Netaji was not allowed to survive within the Congress party. Don't force me into go into detail of why he was forced to leave the country.
No,
don't tell me that. If I open my mouth on who he was posing a challenge to.
Yes, please, yes.
Don't make me speak about what Nehru was and how insecure Nehru was about Netaji pre and post independence.
Birsa Munda, you want
Anyway,
to
I'll have a bigger debate on this later, I think.
23rd January as a
I'll have to
national
close.
holiday.
We're running short today.
Sir, I think you are taking this debate away from the very rational tone that it had acquired. I was delighted with this debate. I have not heard such a insightful debate with such
you said
luminaries
your
around.
narrative,
Kindly
Didi
don't
Bakshi Sahib,
lower the
then
bar.
everything is
Thank
okay.
you. Can I
Once
please,
there is
sir?
a counter
Can
view
I,
to
sir?
your narrative, then this debate
Sir,
is
can
more on the
I?
national. That's the sorry. So I said, irony died. Irony died 1,000 deaths today.
Yes, sir. Sir, can I have the honor of giving a contra viewpoint? It may not meet your exacting requirements of. A very interesting point was made here, that here is a so-called right of the center party, trying to, as you put it, appropriate a leader who was very leftist. That is the political paradox that you have highlighted. May I put it to you, what is the common ground? The common ground, sir, is militant nationalism that Bose represented.
Okay,
he
ladies and gentlemen.
breathed militant nationalism.
And as I close, ladies and gentlemen, as I close this debate, I must say I've been loving it, the debate. And Karuna Guha writes, hello Arnab, it's time for the people of India to recognize that the people who opposed the merger and say that this is an insult to our forces were the same people who asked for proof during Balakot. Yes, Karuna, agree with you. And we have Vishwa Patel who says Netaji is the pride of the country and King George is the epitome of atrocity. Agree with you as well. Well, never too late for corrections. Republic believes we need to correct and rewrite our history. Tell me what you think. Look forward to seeing you on Arnab Live tomorrow, sharp at 9 on the weekend. Good night and goodbye.